Well, hello everyone. You may make 25 here and basically talk about for credit hours introduction. And if most of us seeing from the activity I worked and talking about for like for school hours and credits, but you have right here are like what I use for line paper right here, and do you see right here is I would hand you right here are some pen drawings right here, and I'm like if I were to use the pen tool right here and thinking that I'm like yeah it's just add some detail right there if like if this was right here as a place maybe I'll be sitting for like study time or something like that. But you have right here is some example for credit hours, and I'm sure most students were like wondering to where necessarily to where what does that basically mean to where that for the time it's like a in class, and then it could also be like for time recorded, and a lot of times we like wondering to where that I might go yeah for they usually say to where that maybe time in class or something like that could be monitored or recorded for quality and training purposes, so that if there was a maybe a student that may have graduated from a semester or something like that, and second necessarily to where that any students that are going to be in the classroom to where it's like 2 years after they graduate, and then they may use the information that they train for like use for like references and stuff. But I would do right here example right here of me along with some other students like thinking that while I'm working in the classroom, like wondering to where I'm like yeah that maybe we may think that maybe spend some time extra time in the classroom maybe alone, and thinking that well if anybody will be watching, it's like while we work, if I were putting together maybe some shapes or something like that, like wondering to where I'm like doing the counting, and then if it's anything to do with maybe math class or anything like that, or like really that anybody that may wonder to where all right, here's the color guide, but go ahead and color right here yellow. See here, like with the fill right there. Go ahead and color that in, and then go ahead and color this in right here with see pink and along with red. But there, like that. And thinking necessarily to where it took me a while to get the eyedropper work to do too. But anyway, but you have these shapes right here, and like wondering to where with these shapes to where each one of them that could represent maybe like a credit hour, and like wondering that you spend about maybe 3 hours or maybe 4 hours in the classroom, but like wondering to where that really that for anything that we could be doing while we're in class, and like so far as recorded to where that I'm like yeah that if we want to use that phrase to where for recorded, and like wondering to where necessarily to where that what does that basically mean to where that for anything that we're doing in class, and like for time hours introduced such as that yeah if it's going to be anything such as grants, or it's like for credit hours. But I like wondering to where if I were to be working, and like wondering to where maybe a couple times if I were to show up maybe a few minutes later or something like that for class, or maybe show up for class, and like wondering to where people or other students that could be, looking at me while I'm working, and then, I could be, have a book bag full of papers and take the papers out and be doing my studies, and then it's like doing my work, and then after about maybe an hour or two, and like turn in my assignment. A lot of everybody student that may wonder that I'm like, what's it like that they actually go in the classroom and do our studies, and then actually turn it in. Like I say is that they, after you complete your work, and then there's a Dropbox right here, or there's a folder that they give you that to return whichever that needs to be complete. And I like wondering to where how what do we call that necessarily to where when work that needs to be completed, and sometimes that they say that yeah that not necessarily that you keep it, but then after you write your name, and then for the study time, and as well as the course and all that other stuff, that's related to like an assignment, and like wondering to where that really to where that is it basically to where that just like completing an application, like an application to where information that they collect, and as well as anything that's related to you or anything that's basically required. So, like thinking about while I'm working on my work, it could be maybe math class or science class, and spend about 2 or 3 hours working at, and then after it's they, whenever it's to have a tutor look at it or somebody look at it and thinking that okay, turn it in. Oh no, it got to go back. Well, it's not complete yet, so please correct this or correct that. So I'm sure they say that a lot of times happens also, but for like the time recorded though is to where that the amount of time I can go ahead and write right there, right here is for time, is to where I may have mentioned that before, to where that for credit hours, to where the time, and then for record for how much that was spent in the class. If we're talking about up to 10,900 and at 99, 99, or so hours, and like one to where students. But I'm like, yeah, do these right here. These were students, and say, yeah, think that maybe after about maybe an hour or two working in the classroom, you show up for class, and a few other people are like thinking about that, really. They may say that, yeah, this call or this assignment may be monitored or recorded for training purposes. So, just thinking about to where if I will be working on something, have a backpack full of stuff, and I have to find it very aggravating whenever I can't find a certain assignment. I'm sure most of us, if we were trying to look for something and you get aggravated because it's not there, last time I seen it, oh yeah, it was from week 2 or week three's assignment. I'm trying to look for it. So you have some aggravations to where you're trying to find it. And then it's like, well, okay, well, what can we do? And, if you're working with a tutor or working with the teacher, especially, and thinking, like if it's anybody else that you're working with somebody, and you're working on, to get your stuff worked. And this will be right here of me, sitting in the classroom on the desk working on my class work, and this right here will be example of me right here handing in an assignment or any other source of information. And you have right here are these students, and like thinking that these students to where they, yeah, that who knows who could be watching me, who could be looking at me and thinking about them, that really, well, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? Like, are you looking at me? But the way I think about it, though, is that really to where I don't think necessarily to where people who look at each other and thinking that oh yeah, yeah, really, I kept thinking about while you're in class. It really, no, but you may want that kind of attention maybe at first, but then after a few hours, like think about, I don't think you're going to get it, and then maybe after about maybe a year or two or something like that, and thinking that, well, the people more likely they are going to take interest in what you're doing, and like how right here is between 3 hours right there, and then only about 15 minutes to turn in an assignment. That it's possible that people will be looking at you just to kind of get an idea about for how hard work was, and any difficult complications as well. So whenever I look at these drawings right here, I kept thinking about, yeah, that draw with the pencil right here. If I were to draw with the pencil tool and be like, yeah, if I draw, an image of this is me right here, and like, yeah, that maybe a couple times I would want to start over because a line was it zip-sided or something like that, and then I'm like, yeah. So if that was right there with me right here at the pencil tool, and as well as a few other things as well. So it's like working right there is like with the pencil tool as well. But you got right there is some examples right there of me right here, like I use some kind, but just thinking about it's like the time for like for credit hours, to where credit hours are basically earned, to where if you're able to spend about maybe 10,000 or so hours, maybe out of a semester, maybe out of a full quarter, about 6 weeks or so of class, and thinking about if you spend so much time in a classroom, and thinking that well, yeah, they want you to maybe to do a worker survey, or they want you to go ahead and do something else, and thinking about, yeah, time recording. Like, well, it's for credit hours introduced. It's like that for whatever that we do, is that for anything really that works, it seems like people mainly are going to follow that path, to where anything that's introduced about for what all students do and what all anybody does, if it's going to be company or business or anything like that. So basically does something for credit hours introduced. I talk about for things that most important is understanding about what all we do, and you say for points about the future. Top say may make 25, and thanks for watching.